Welcome to the Holy Rollers Mystic Podcast, the All Faith Liberation Church. Pastor Sidney here and Brother Anthony. How you doing, Brother Anthony? How you doing, brother?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Real good. We're going to try to do sayings 80 through 90 today. So without wasting any time, I'll just dive into it. These are really, I think they get progressively more challenging as they get to the end of the gospel. So the first thing is saying 80. Jesus said, whoever has come to know the world has discovered the body, and whoever has discovered the body, of that one the world is not worthy. My take on this, you had a take on this that you had said before we put it on, but my take on this is kind of the whole dichotomy between the body and the spirit. That if you know the world and you really know it, then you've discovered the body. In other words, your body, my body, the idea of physicality. But then if you've discovered the body, of that one the world is not worthy. So through the body you can transcend the world, you know? And that is a really deep way of understanding physicality is not at war with spirituality, which we've talked about in other times, and we'll probably talk more about.
Yeah, we have also talked about the tree of life, with how it stems out. Like, for instance, when you said that saying, that's the first thing that I think of. The first monad, the whole, which is at the top, and how it develops wisdom, and then it develops the one who manifests wisdom into existence. So they're both at the top. So they're the ends of the pyramid. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So one is physicality, the other one is spirituality. Kind of like conscious and unconscious. They rival each other. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But the body, you do have a sense of body, and I think the body is more of like your soul, speaking the earth, because we were made from the dust of the earth.
Yes.
So our body takes the characteristics of the earth mother, the earth.
Yes.
And in a certain sense, it seems like he's talking about that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If you find out the body, you're not worthy of me because he may be talking about you could be above him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But the idea, or how he talks about we should be better than him. He could be, is not worthy of me. What does he mean by not worthy? Meaning that you're coming up short or you're coming above as he was.
I think both are probably true, and I think if you look at it really carefully to the words, whoever's come to know the world has discovered the body, but whoever has discovered the body, of that one the world is not worthy. So that if you pay attention to the world and you discover its mysteries, discover the mother, and the mother wisdom, you had said it was specifically Sophia. You had talked of Sophia wisdom as the aspect of mother and father, the aspect of God. You want to speak to that at all?
About what? I'm sorry.
The idea of it being Sophia wisdom, possibly too, as well as physical body.
Well, wisdom manifests itself into matter,
right?
And it manifests itself through us. That is the light that we carry, which is one of the passages that we're about to talk about. Was the light of his light, which is the light of Barbelo, which is the light which all creation emulates. Even you, me, that's the light that we preach about. That's the light that we talk about. That's what a Gnostic is about.
Definitely.
Is carrying the light within. And when you carry a certain light like that, you carry yourself with a sense of knowing things and understanding things that you don't exactly know shit about, but you know them. You know what I mean? It's a type of, like, for instance, they talk about in the book of Enoch being transformed into an angel that has a throne. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he sits at the right hand side of God.
Right.
Which also could emerge in with the whole Christian mythology, to tell you the truth. Because Jesus' whole duty is to sit at the right hand side of God.
So kind of the fusion of spirit and body, physical and spiritual matter at the same time.
All wrapped into one. Because the earth is alive. Dirt is alive.
Right. So
it's a living organism.
So when the scripture, go ahead.
So like if you go outside with no shoes and stuff on, you lay on the ground, your body pulls energy from the earth and it regenerates itself. That's why it's so important to be outside. Well,
that's why, originally when we started this church 10 years ago or more, it was the idea of the earth, the dirt that Allah breathed into in the beginning of Genesis. The dirt itself and the earth itself had a physicality, had a form, had a personality, was the earth, was the mother. And that was what's been missing from most Christianity for a very long time, the idea of giving the mother credit along with the father. And that's one of the reasons we really wanted to do this church, was to kind of spread that knowledge to people.
Sure. Yeah, and it's kind of weird because, like, I've read into the book of Enoch into like depth. And you know how it talks about fallen angels?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be condescending.
No, I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
But it kind of seems like that's where we're at now, where the devil's hoodwinked everybody and just cruised off into the world and built his own cult, built his own religion, got everybody in this world thinking that they're worshiping God, but they're not.
Right. It's like
that's the biggest hoodwinkle the devil could ever do. That's the biggest trick he could ever play on us.
Let people think
to destroy all other aspects of God and make you think that He's God.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. That's what the whole Trump thing represents. You know, whether he personally has that depth or not, the what's going on in the world and in the country is a very false prophet thought, a very false trickster kind of thought that a lot of people think they're being very spiritual and true to God, and they're completely doing everything against God by following Him and where He's taking us.
So, like, for me, for instance, how do we not know the natives were actually all Israelites across the world?
Well, that was a thought that the Mormons had, I think, too. The idea that a lot of people were connected, that it was really the story of the diaspora of all the human race, not just one people, but all peoples coming out of that, spiritually spoken of, you know. Would you mind if I went on to the next saying, friend?
Yeah, go ahead.
Saying 81, Jesus said, "Let one who has become wealthy reign, and let one who has power renounce it."
Because once you have understanding, you want neither one. That is both given to you.
Right. You have no need of wealth or power when you have the kind of wealth and power spirituality can give you. And it is a question of renouncing it. In other words, it kind of reminds me of the saying of Jesus where he said, don't go to the highest seat because they'll kick you down to the lower seat. But if you go to the banquet, go to the lowest seat, and then they'll raise you up to the higher seat. It is kind of like that. The more you try to grab something, it's almost like trying to grab water. It falls out of your hand. But the more you just become one with everything and don't try to dominate it, the more you become powerful in it.
And the understanding that money is just not even an object anymore.
Right.
And the wealthiness can be taken away from you at any moment by the governments.
Definitely.
So what wealth are you building? The wealth that you need to build is the wealth within.
The spiritual wealth, the gold that doesn't rust. Yes.
Or the Hindus would say the Buddhists would say the rainbow body.
Go ahead, talk about that.
Which is your spiritual body. So your body transcends into another body, like a different type of being in itself. Like you leave physical and turn into light.
Lovely.
And you just
That's why we pray not only Christian prayers and Muslim prayers, we also pray Buddhist prayers. Our weekly, the weekly things we do, all, rosary chanting services have a lot to do with bringing all that knowledge together too. I'll go on to saying 82. Saying 82, Jesus said, "Whoever is near me is near the fire, and whoever is far from me is far from the Father's kingdom." That's an easier one for me to understand than the others.
And it comes to the same thing I was talking about, the light of Barbados. Once you recognize the light within you, you start burning and following it. It leads you to a place. When you walk into the dark, as long as you know that you have that light within you, you can see everything.
Definitely.
There's no. It's just a reminder that you are the light. A lot of things that what people don't teach, they oh, Jesus is the light. No, you are just like Jesus.
Right.
So Jesus was the light, so you are the light as well.
And
he says it over and over and over. Just don't be like me. Be better than me.
Right.
Meaning, we all could be Christ. But what sense of Christ are we trying to be? Are we trying to be the Roman Christian Christ that died on a cross and it was considered perfect? Or do we want to be the whole Christ, where we learn how to juggle our duality nature instead of opposing it? The Indians say always, you have two wolves inside you. Which one you're going to feed? You're going to feed the white wolf or you're going to feed the black wolf? The dark wolf. Well, if you feed the white wolf, then the dark wolf resents you. If you feed the dark wolf, then the light wolf will resent you. So what do? You feed them both, so they don't resent you and they're in harmony.
That's great. Which is, of course, the Kemetic Egyptian concept that Judaism brought into Christianity and Greek philosophy, is the idea of duality, the duat, the paired ways of seeing things. People in the internet years ago were talking about bringing Keku back from the grave, this god of madness that was going to take over the world. And some people think he has done that. But what was Keku? Keku was darkness into light, or was light into darkness, not just darkness. He was light into darkness. And Kauket, his partner, which would make him whole and sane, was darkness into light. So basically both of them have both in them. And if they're paired together, you have what we're talking about.
Christ or enlightenment.
Christ enlightenment. So Buddhism is again brought to Jesus, definitely in his own practice, certainly knew Buddha thought, as well as other places, all over. Being near Sepphoris, a few 6 or 7 miles away from Nazareth, he was reading books that, all the books that were going through the sailors, brought that kind of entertainment that the people could read. Well, he was reading things from China. He was reading things from India. He was reading things from Europe and Africa, as well as places from closer to home. And he definitely had a Buddhist concept. And, Buddhist concept was also coming from Egyptian thought, from Jewish thought years ago, too. Shall I go on with the next saying? The next saying go ahead, yeah.
Let me get one thought in.
Please.
I think he learned from a much richer mythology that spread out in parts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, he might not have been the last one, or it's a hidden type of teaching that he's learned that, because they say Africa taught the Indians. You know what I mean? The Buddhists and all that.
Yeah.
They taught the Arabs. They taught the Europeans.
Yes.
So couldn't it have been a case where he went down and spent time in Egypt, which it says in the Bible.
It says the Bible, and also says the Gnosis Bible.
This knowledge in Africa.
Right. It's all from Africa, friend, which is the greatest thing to be part of a church that we all can kind of see that. Saying 83. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Saying 83. Jesus said, images are visible to people, but the light within them is hidden in the image of the Father's light. He will be disclosed, but his image is hidden by his light. Do you have an idea? Because I have an idea I've thought of.
Go ahead. I gotta read this real quick because you jumped in and out.
Sure.
So I'm gonna read over it real quick. Give me a quick second and go ahead with what you think.
Well, what I think is like obviously Platonic thought, was floating around in everything else. And there was the concept of the ideal plane, that all things have an ideal image that are floating around somewhere in the ether that they connect to. But at the same time, the light that someone has, their personality, their specificness can be a distraction from it. And if you can commune with someone completely, you don't even know who they are anymore. They're kind of part of you. Kind of like, when you and your partner or people that you are ever physical with, that also is kind of a time where you don't remember who she is or who you are or who he is or who they are. You end up just kind of becoming part of a moment where you have lost your specific identity and all there is light. And the Father, of course, is the same. So like the light within this image of the hidden in the image of the Father's light, Allah will be disclosed, but his image is hidden by his very light. This is one of the reasons we can't see God in the flesh, because all we see is the great light, which is blinding to us. Go ahead if you want to.
The great and the light is within. We all know this.
Yes.
His light is the true version of you. You can't see him because it's you.
Right. That's lovely. You can't see yourself.
He is.
So the you becomes God in that way. That's such a great way of saying it, brother. Say that again if you can. Wax on that. Speak on that.
What, the light that's deep within you?
Yes.
Is the light of God. It is the true version of yourself. It is God. That's why you can't see it. Because God is you. You are God. Your spirit is God. That is the true you.
And of course,
you know what I mean?
And of course,
you die.
Right.
That part of you still stays alive.
And
it moves on to wherever we go to after this.
And also,
you know what I mean?
Definitely. Also,
so it never dies. That's what I say. When God says he's eternal, yes, and so are you. The eternal part of you stays alive.
I have something really good to say here. I am inspired by the Spirit. If you look at the Buddhist concept of non-self, this explains it a little bit. You become most yourself when you're not aware of yourself anymore. You become most aware of God when you're no longer in a thought of what God or anything is. You're just listening to and projecting the same kind of nothingness, the darkness, the light inside you. And therefore you're most free when you're least yourself. You're most yourself when you're least yourself because you're most God. And also the other way works too. You're most yourself when you're least concerned with the triviality of ego, to use a prayer that Elder Jeffrey says in the prayers. To be above the rise above the triviality of ego, because the triviality of ego is this extra stuff that gets in the way of your light.
That's just like you would say hell would be a person who becomes 100% physical and does not acknowledge that they're a spirit at all.
Which is the hell that a lot of people are in right now.
Yeah, I know that hits on so many different levels.
That is great. We should, after we get through the whole thing, the next couple episodes, I'd like to, with your input too, if you'd like to do it, we can go back and make a few sayings that we think a lot about, and then speak more on those, and develop those specifically, and then keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I go on? Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Because I'm going to go back to the thing you read. Which one is it? 84 now?
We are now on saying 84. Jesus said, "When you see your likeness, you are happy. But when you see your images that came into being before you, and that neither die nor become visible, how much you will have to bear." Same kind of mystery. It's the idea of if you get stuck looking at yourself, you're happy in the addictive sense of samsara, the addictive sense of life and death forever and no eternity, because you're very excited about yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you look beyond yourself, then you see that there's images that came before you, way before we existed, and that neither die nor become visible. The kind of greatness of God that is there and never dies and never at the same time becomes visible, how much you will have to bear. In other words, it reminds me of the cross concept. I mean, the cross from the punishment and the death into something that kind of becomes wings in a way, or how the Jehovah's Witness believe he was crucified on a tree to symbolize the connection to Mother Earth and all the mysteries of Buddhism and Judaism and Hinduism and paganism, as well.
And you know it's crazy that you just said that?
Go ahead, friend.
Who else? Actually, you know it's crazy you said that?
Yeah.
Because who else in history has been massacred on trees?
Well, black people have been hung on trees, lynching. Willie Lynch's letter. We put Willie Lynch's
lynching,
letter out. Yeah. Shamans too.
Shamans were hung on trees and burnt alive.
Definitely.
Crucified, just like. So you start going down in history, you start looking at the events, some of the events that went on, like the Christian Crusade when they came over here, and that's why I say maybe the natives were the true Israelites, because they came over here and just massacred them off in numbers, ridiculous numbers.
60 million people at least. Well, right. I think a lot of diaspora would be connected to that. I think a lot of people have that connection. I'll go. We've got a few more. I'm going to go up to 90. So I'll say saying 85. Jesus said, Adam came from great power and great wealth, but he was not worthy of you. For had he been worthy, he would not have tasted death. I'll read a couple more. I'll read the next few, and then we can break it down. So saying 86, Jesus said, foxes have their dens and birds have their nests, but human beings have no place to lay down and rest. Saying 87, Jesus said, how miserable is the body that depends on a body, and how miserable is the soul that depends on these two. Saying 88, Jesus said, the messengers of the prophets will come to you and give you what belongs to you. You, in turn, give them what you have and say to yourselves, when will they come and take what belongs to them? Saying 89 and 90, saying 89, Jesus said, why do you wash the outside of the cup? Don't you understand that the one who made the inside is also the one who made the outside?
And what I've been saying the whole time, the light within you makes the your inner reflects your outer.
Definitely.
And always the light inside, it flourishes. That's why I remember before I just got on, which I was talking about energy and how now I'm learning how to just let it flow instead of just trying to resist certain things.
Definitely.
It's the same concept. You have to let it just flow through you. Otherwise, you get caught up in resistance.
And you get caught up in the illusion of the self. I think it's very interesting that our world has been in the hands of kind of like, the influence of cults from the 70s that were self-help cults. They're always about the self. What's good for the self. And even our politics about identities, about self. But all of that is kind of a way to, be really stuck in the illusion of self and then be blocked from really seeing the truth. And that's what we've been talking about here. So for instance, like 87, how miserable is the body that depends on a body, and how miserable is the soul that depends on these two? So basically, if a body depends on a body in a way that's addictive, through sexuality or through food or through anything, and how miserable is the soul that depends on both of them together, being two bodies in this kind of conflict.
Being too physical.
Right.
You're too literal. How about that? That hits it right on the money.
I believe it, right. Physical and literal as opposed to the spiritual subtlety and nuance of existence that you get to live and be in heaven if you can let yourself be. Otherwise, you're stuck in the hell of whatever quotidian or daily things are happening to you, and you're stuck in that shit, and you never get beyond it. That's what, Allah and Jesus is telling us now through this. Foxes have their dens and birds have their nests, but human beings have no place to lay down and rest. I think it sounds like a paraphrase of something he said, that the Son of Man has no place to lay down and rest. It's an interesting translation, but we are all kind of homeless in this world until we make our home. Whereas, all the birds and the animals kind of have it already understood. They through their genetics and through their experience over years and years.
Being homeless is a point of view. Yes. Because the earth is our home.
Right.
So no matter where we go on this earth, we have a home just like the animals do.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
But I think in this instance, he's talking about the body as being the home of the spirit.
I agree.
So if your body is desolated, then your spirit is just going to be just as bad.
Well, and there's
it's not going to have no home.
Another way to look at 87, how miserable is the body depends on the body, how miserable is the soul, it depends on these two. So you look at, once you have achieved body wisdom along with the world, you can get beyond it, like it says in an earlier saying.
It could be achieving a worldly knowledge over spiritual knowledge.
Right, and the body that depends on a body, its own body, like not just the body of someone else, but their own body. If they're depending on it too much and want everything to be what they find pleasurable, what they find not painful, then they miss the idea, and the soul is dependent on that relationship between the body and the body, then that soul is trapped. That soul doesn't see the light or the darkness, doesn't see anything. There's only whatever physical is going on next. And we live in a world of capitalism where basically everything is about, like, here's a fun little sandwich to eat, here's a fun little candy bar, here's a new place to live, here's an old place, like all this kind of thing is ways of like extreme distraction from the point of view of what real life is about.
Extreme extraction to keep you from your own self. People gotta understand we have to remember we are a collective and we are individuals.
Definitely.
All right. We are still trying to understand our own individuality while being a part of a collective group. You kind of get what I mean?
Definitely.
So when you start losing perspective of the collective group and start thinking about yourself, only yourself, you kind of lose your balance there as well. And then you becoming too time into physicality instead of into spirituality. It's the same way when you go too much into spirituality, you forget that you're a body and that you're living in a physical world as well.
Right, right. Which is what a lot of these sayings are going and kind of talking cleverly about, like very small phrases that allow you to see all those realities at once. I'm going to say the last one, and we can then just have our discussion and then we'll end it. 90 is a very familiar one. Jesus said, "Come to me, for my yoke is comfortable and my lordship is gentle, and you will find rest for yourselves." And of course, that's very much like, well, actually, a couple times in the Bible it says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Well, the rest that you get is knowing you're doing the work of God and the joy of living in this world, the mother world. Being yoked onto such a cart is a better place than I think a lot of the rest of the world wants you to be, which is being down and in chains in all kinds of ways.
It's like the ones who are being slaves come to me and I will ease your burden. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, come and become spiritual instead of being physical, and these chains will break off immediately. And that's got a lot to do with the mind and perspective. Because if you're only fixed on one perspective of life, your mind's in chains. Or you can look at it this way, in a physical way. What did they do to the slaves? You chain them first. Yeah, you break after you break their body, you break their mind.
Right.
Then you cast chains in their mind, so then you can allow the chains in their hands to go.
That's beautiful, friend. That's beautiful. That's exactly what it is.
Or the saying of, for instance, I know it sounds bad, but I see this all the time. It's like the man that works the fields. I don't want to say the word, all right?
Mm-hmm.
The man who works the field wants to run away, and the house slave wants to stay. Why? Because the house slave gets treated better than the slave in the fields.
Right.
Why would the slave that gets treated better want to leave?
Right. And you're more in the illusion of the house part of society, which seems so normal, as opposed to the hard world of the actual physical work of, slavery. It's interesting to see that, American slavery is such a metaphor for everybody, black people certainly, but everybody else being enchained to, illusion and being enchained to, a make-work situation to profit a few. And even those who profit don't really profit because they're chained to it too, which I think is one of the reasons that there's been so much spiritual development in America from Mormon times, Nation of Islam, all kinds of different, very original thought. Seventh-day Adventists, even Christian Scientists. All these people, all these communities came together to try to solve the problem of slavery, which is symbolic of the slavery of all of us throughout time, not just in the last 500 years. But it all comes together here, kind of boils to a point here. And this is where we have to actually end it. We have to end slavery, both physical and spiritual slavery.
Yeah, they just threw financial shackles on us after that.
And of course, the spiritual shackles that maintain it. The idea that you'd be happy in your home. Oh, I'm fine here. I'm going to ignore the pain outside, out in the fields, and think I have something to do with this society, when in fact I'm as much a slave as the person in the fields.
Or you get extremists. Oh, it's a sin to kill. You can't kill your baby. So now I'm going to go out and try to change the world where nobody could have an abortion ever again. But don't you think that's an illusion?
Right.
That's a scripture illusion. All right, because we all have the freedom to do what we please.
Right.
If you kill that child, you're the one who has the answer for it. Not you, not you, and not you, and not you. Why are you judging that person for what they had to do? If we were so free, we wouldn't be going through this. Freedom is an illusion.
Yes.
I'm starting to realize that. Because it's an illusion for us to work and think we're free, but really we're just economic slaves just working to keep the system going.
Right. And all the ideological and spiritual thought that goes along with it, the idea that most churches are slavery places. They're not there to try to liberate us or make us the Christ. They're trying to get us to look at Christ far away and try to imitate him from afar and just keep him forever from us. When in fact we are the Christ, we are the Mother Mary, we are all these figures in the mythology, and then we should be those things and not worship them apart from the worship of God in ourselves. And that would break a lot of the slavery part of this world. Even if we didn't directly fight capitalism, it would enable us to get our forces together then to fight capitalism. Because we need to fight capitalism, both physically and spiritually. Is there anything else you want to say, friend? Well, I think
that's like you get, when you read about the Gnostics, the first thing you read about when you read about them is how they were massacred. Large numbers. The Romans came down 100,000 strong or whatever, and whatever was Gnostic, and these people were they were people of peace.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't believe in war, but because of their Algarian society and the way they were doing things, they were basically against them, but they never really said anything. They just did what they had to do. And you got 50,000 Romans, 100,000 Romans coming down and just massacring everybody. That's enough terror to put into somebody's fucking mind for the next 100, 200 years to even think about even going back to something.
Right. And they've been doing that. Oh, go ahead.
And that's how they built their form of Christianity, oh, it's about peace. It's not about peace. If peace is somebody choosing what they want to be, not coming down 100,000 strong and killing everything in sight and then converting everybody else that you decide to live in fear.
Right. Living in fear is really our biggest enemy. We need to empower anyone listening, anyone in our own church, anyone in the world around us to be not afraid and to embrace the God within them and embrace the God within each other. That's real Christianity. That's real everything. Buddhism, Islam, the source of the, the wisdom of the Judaism.
Bringing God outside, bringing God, allowing to God to take its form through you, express himself through you.
Right. And then you become nothing and let that power go through you, and you follow what comes out of you as if you're watching it for the first time too, as a movie without planning. Is there anything you want to say at the end, Anthony? I think we've come to a place where we've looked through these next 10, and I feel really good about them.
So do I. So do I. All I can say is peace be with everybody, and love all you guys and women.
Love you guys too, and thank you, Brother Anthony, and thanks everybody in the church for contributing to this vision of trying to get everyone free. And that's really what we're all about. Thank you so much.